The GEEK Files, 2026, March 23rd, Burnaby. September of 88, White Horse are in maintenance, but I'm off on contract on VYZ. So they got, Donnie and Blaine got a couple of runs in, and then they came back and they were concerned because like the right-hand generator just kept falling offline. So like when you're up in the middle of nowhere, you really don't want to rely on only one generator, especially if it's snapping quill shafts. And they came back and said, "Why, we got no right brakes." So I had a look, and the brake pedal, the rudder pedals operated a very long, thin, hardened steel, spring steel shaft lever that then worked the actual brake cylinders. And this thing had almost snapped into it, a huge crack in it. So I talked to Blaine and Dean saying, okay, this thing's spring steel. If we weld it up, we can weld it up, but it's going to draw the temper out of it, and I don't know how long it's going to last. VYZ did not have reversing props. Small mercy for that. So we were grounded. So we call up and we try and find this thing. And there is one in probably New Jersey, something like that, at a aircraft breaker. But it's going to be a couple days to get it up to us because this is, before cell phones, before the internet, before GPS, and certainly before Amazon Prime. So in the meantime, Ambrose is going to ship me over. He has a spare, and he ships it over, and now it's out of VYX that had crashed, and it's bent into a pretzel, so it's useless. So we're there. So the three of us decide to go to the bar. Now there's two bars at that time in Aquala. One was it'll come to me, a Legion, and since we weren't members, we couldn't get in, so we went up to the other bar. We sit down. Waitress comes around with this tray full of beer and says, "You want a beer?" So we order whatever. I order a kokanee, Blaine orders something, and then the waitress says no, and points to the tray and says, "You want a beer?" And it's a tray full of Molson's Canadian and Molson's OV, because they came up once a year on the sea lift, and a barge of this stuff came up, a barge of OV and Canadian came up, and that was the beer for the year. Now, because it's a long way, the top layer kind of went skunky, so it was set aside and served only after like midnight when no one had really noticed the beer was kind of off. So yeah, and if you wanted, a hard liquor, they had just generic vodka, rye, and there was three, but it was just, and that was it. So yeah, we proceeded to get drunk. And on the way back, the tide was out in Frobisher Bay, so we're out there wandering around because it's a long bay, and it's kind of like the Bay of Fundy, that it's get big tide sloshes. So the tide goes out a long way, and it's very, very, very flat. So we're out there, and all of a sudden the tide starts coming in, and it's coming in, and so we have to hustle our butts off. Never concerned that it's a big tide flat and there might be quicksand, and we could fall in the quicksand and the tide swallow us. Yeah. So anyway, I guess, what did we do the next day? I guess the part came in. I guess it was overnight expresses, and the part came in. We got up in the morning. The weather had turned, and the part came in. Yeah. So the next day it came in late. So we got it in, but there wasn't enough time to go for a trip. We got in, we tested, everything was okay. So we decided we'll just leave this and go the next day. Meanwhile, these poor guys, I guess they're from Tennessee, wherever this National Guard Herc was, these guys are freezing their butts off because they are not prepared for winter in the Arctic at all. Yeah. So, yep, the next day we get up and it has rained overnight, and it has been freezing rain overnight. So there's about half an inch of clear ice all over the aircraft. So we have it brought, the ice are brought over, and de-iced the aircraft, and it took 100 gallons of de-ice fluid to get the ice off the aircraft, because it was like clear ice. Typical fall day in the Arctic, right? And so, yeah, they get it. And because it's late, they only get a couple trips in. The quill shaft breaks. I put in the last quill shaft, pull the starter, the right-hand starter off, steal its quill shaft, put the quill shaft in the left-hand starter. And by this time, there's one load left, and the National Guard boys can't wait. So they load up everything, and the deal is struck that since there's only one load left, that we would get that load. It was a light load, it wasn't a big load. And we would fly we'd do Frobisher Bay, Brevoort Island, and then come down to Goose Bay with the last load. And so, yeah. So I guess what we do is we check out, we load up everything, they take off. I try to remember how this worked, because maybe it was the next day. Anyway, it'd probably be the next day. Maybe we had to get more parts. Here we were waiting for more quill shafts because I had quill shafts on the way, and we couldn't leave till the next day. So the next day we're going to leave, grab the stuff from Brevoort Island, and then head down to Frobisher Bay, or from Frobisher Bay to do Frobisher Bay, Brevoort Island, and to Goose Bay, Happy Valley. Anyway, yeah. Making appropriate life decisions. You don't make any money, but boy, you get good stories.